We really owe a huge debt of gratitude to Thrive, because Elaine Wiley came over with her husband John, and it was this time last year. There were various head teachers with us, and Elaine is wonderful. She actually came back in May because of all the communities that have undertaken the Daily Mile. I think she particularly liked the way we'd embraced it, and I say she came back and saw us again in May. And her story is fantastic. What she wanted to do was retire, but she was in her last year as a head teacher in a school in Scotland, looked out the window, saw the kids were struggling to run around her school, implemented the Daily Mile, and the impact that she saw that had the biggest effect, it did have a big effect on the fitness of the pupils in St Ninians, her school, but then it meant that they really began to benefit in a whole range of ways, in exactly the way our youngsters have. And since then, we've now got 5,000 schools across the globe doing the Daily Mile, just because it's worked so well. We've got 12 schools at the moment. I think that what's interesting is the number of schools vary because we've left it to schools to determine when they're going to do their mile, if they're going to take it up. And actually what I don't want to do in this talk or ever is to pressurise schools that aren't doing it. They're all primary schools, by the way. But we wouldn't want to pressurise schools to do it, because you have to do it. The beauty of what we've done is to get the schools to do it when they're ready, how they're ready. We've also had a community response, so we've got a mile that we do at the Coathills. We're really keen to get early years settings, so our play schools, etc., to do the mile as well. And we have seen increased fitness levels, and we've got lots of stories about improved mental health and well-being. And we're really proud of the logo. We're the only place that they've allowed to use their own logo because we've responded so well to the mile. And then we'll get on to, in a moment, we'll talk about Rosie and the Channel Swim. The motto for the Channel Swim is "Nothing great is easy," and that's James Webb. He was the first person to swim it back in 1824, 24 hours or whatever. Rosie took 13 hours. But there is a crossover in terms of the other. There are there were some images of Rosie. I'll come back to those, but I just love to have that. I'm so proud of. One thing we talk about with the channel and with what we're doing with the Daily Mile is that it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Well, Rosie was never ordinary. She was always a lovely, sunny child. But I really like that second picture along, because you can hardly see her. I think that gives some sense of the enormity. That's with the White Cliffs of Dover in front of her. And then she looks so happy in her onesie. She always looks happy in her onesie, but there, she had swum the channel. But more about her later. Just to give a bit of a context as well, I don't know how many people have read Yuval Harari's. He's the guy who wrote *Sapiens* and *Homo Sapiens*, which is sort of views, histories of the world. And he's just written 21 lessons for the 21st century, which is all a bit scary. It's all about the threats to the environment, the fact that the world's becoming destabilised, the impact of artificial intelligence, the impact of health and well-being. And he talks about an age of bewilderment. What I really like is he talks about the problem we have, certainly around things like activity, is that what we're doing now is an ordinary response to extraordinary times. And what he means by that is actually our bodies are built to be active and to hunt and search for food. And at the moment, we've got loads of food available to us and we don't have to be active. We haven't been active for an hour, have we? And actually things like the Daily Mile and what Rosie have done are the antidote to that book. So what I thought I would do is just very quickly take you through some of the key ingredients for our mile. So what happened, and I've got lovely images. It's interesting, the previous two speakers, a key theme has been about humour and happiness. You'll see that. The pictures, I guarantee you'll finish off, having looked at all the photos that we've got of people doing the mile, it's bound to be uplifting. It just has that effect on you, because the whole experience has been. So what happened, Elaine came along, we had some teachers here who were interested in doing the mile. I went on the Sunday after we had our talks here, and we visited 4 or 5 schools, and she said, you know, that you're the perfect environment. You're a small population, you've got a huge community feel, which she sensed at Thrive and felt after that. She was very impressed with our head teachers. thought the locations were great because she's used to going to urban locations where it's a struggle to do the mile. And she said, you know, it's a really ideal opportunity. Now, I've worked in education 30 odd years. I've never seen something be taken up with it and be so popular as this. And I think one of the reasons is what we did, instead of imposing it from above, what we did was we worked alongside people. So we just said, we can give you a little bit of support, we can nudge you with this. But actually, they took it on, they did it the way they wanted, when they wanted, with the pupils they wanted. And because it's successful, it's really thrived. So let me show you some of the images. It's quite interesting with the images. When we go round, when Elaine came back in May, we gave the kids the cameras to take pictures of, and they're fantastic, all the images that they take. But firstly, I mean, it is simple and fun. There are some ground rules that are established. Basically, what we want to do is that everybody in a class does the miles. We were a bit worried when we started because we thought there'd be some reluctance to that, but we just agreed with that. They can change it when they go out. There's no point, if they're doing loads of other activities, they won't necessarily want to do the mile. So it was quite interesting in the run-up to the Rugby Tag Festival, and they were doing loads of rugby. The kids were really keen to do the mile and do the Rugby Tag Festival, but there's other things you need to do in school. So we allow all sorts of flexible, but it couldn't really be more simple and fun. And I love this picture. I'm going to try and reference every school that's done things. So the top one was St Martin's. That was when we've had loads of interest in the media. So I just think that's such a lovely image because they're all doing different things. Half of them are running in the wrong direction. This lad at the front, he was just hilarious, going on and on about how much he loved the mile. Over there, Father Christmas had a great time. That was at the Rondan. The Rondan have been brilliant how they've taken the mile up. What it's proved to them is that their youngsters can do something with the mile that everybody else can. And actually there's unintended consequences with the mile. So lots of their pupils have built up a mucus in their lungs or whatever. And this clears it out for them when they do the mile, because they do the mile first thing in the morning. But we had great fun with Father Christmas because what happened was the kids took over and they had Father Christmas doing loads of warm-ups because they'd been taught to do warm-ups before their mile, in this Father Christmas outfit, which is a bit of a struggle. This one here, we've got about 3 or 4 early years settings, play schools doing things, and that's kinder. And that's the one that's beside the bed for factory in New Road, where in St Sampson's. Very little space, but they have thoroughly enjoyed doing it as well. What I love about it is that schools can do it how they want, but they've really involved children in how they deliver it. So this is Hoke Pelham Vale. So again, we went down, they decided where they were going to put, Edie here in particular decided where they were going to put their stickers, because they've got loads of stickers. They planned the route out with me that they could do. And then over there, with Hoke Pells, what's great about how they've done things is they wanted to work out ways that children, younger children, could work with older children. This is the perfect way of doing that. So the older ones there are mentoring the younger ones when they do the mile. And in the background, that lady going the other way doing her own mile was Lady Corder. We've had great support from the governor and his wife. We did a daily mile at the governor's or at Government House, and she's loved it, Lady Corder. She's been to 2 or 3 of our miles. The beauty of it is it's outdoors, so you know you just get all the benefits of being outdoors. And this is our latest school. This is Herm, and what's interesting with Herm, firstly, it's great. They're really fit. You know, of all the schools that you'd think, well, actually, do they need to do the mile because of health reasons or because of activity reasons? That Herm already incorporate a lot of activity in what they do. They're going down the spine there on the right. You know, beside where the school is, but it's lovely. They have such an age range with the pupils that are in their school. They can't do an awful lot together, but they could do the mile here, and that's Mr. Walters, the head teacher from Beaufort. So we measured it with them. They decided where they wanted to go, and basically their mile takes them down to Shell Beach and then round to near the Mermaid. But the fact you've got people going outdoors as a matter of course is hugely beneficial. I love the way we've embraced the community. This is the kind of enhancement we've provided. So that's Cameron Chalmers. He went over. We did 6 daily miles in one morning. That was his old school, Beechwood. Beechwood have been brilliant how they've incorporated the mile. They've done it from all ages. They've built their own little, so they can avoid kids getting muddy. They've built their own track that keeps them a track on the grass. And Cameron and his brother Ala came as well, and we've had various other runners and various other people come along who have just been really good role models. And we took Rosie. So here's Rosie. When we did our Pride Week, our Rainbow Pride Week, you can see Rosie wearing this. She went along to Vale, and we did an assembly and talked about the channel. But it was a really nice opportunity that for us, after we did that assembly, for youngsters to come and chat to Rosie. It is inclusive, you know. It's not. There are various. There are various rules. We try and get young people to run if we can, but basically, there's it really is about young people to do what they want through the mile. But everybody can do it, and everybody can do it at their pace, and it isn't competitive, and that I think is a huge strength. And I was expecting some kickback. Very few people have youngsters that we know, and we surveyed all of our schools who were involved just formally, really, before the summer, and we asked them, do pupils not want to do it? And they said, that hasn't really happened. I included that picture there. That was Elaine when she was at Haute Capelle, and we did it, or we were chatting about the mile. And the most excitement was that she'd been at the royal wedding the week before and was showing pictures of the royal wedding. So that's when we got engaged with most people. But I like this one as well. I think this is at Forest, I think. I think it just embraces or summarises for us everything that's so special about the mile. The weather's interesting. The teachers had some concerns about going out in the rain, or in the snow, or in the wind. Actually, the pupils love it, and they love going out, particularly in the wind, and that's something back to do with being outdoors, being in, there's such an attraction in running or walking in the wind, certainly when you're young. I think the best time of the year is this time of the year, because it's not that cold out there, and there's quite a bit of wind. But, so that picture, the top one, I thought was lovely. That's Sam Wallbridge. Now, do you remember Sam? He was the Commonwealth Games athlete who went out to the Commonwealth Games, didn't even compete. His very first training session fell and broke his shoulder, couldn't compete. The relay team couldn't compete. It was devastating for Sam, and actually it was very cathartic for him. We took him in, we did an assembly, we did 2 or 3 daily miles, and he could talk to the youngsters about his experience. But this was hilarious because that little girl wouldn't let him go anywhere without putting his hood up. So they actually learned secrets about and again here, these two are some of our play schools or nurseries, and they're kitted out, so they're fine. They're used to going out in the rain, which is so important that we're teaching people lessons for life here, that you shouldn't see weather as a barrier when you're looking at doing things like exercise and activity. It is flexible, so this, I think that might be Forest again, but this is us all doing the mile that you're going to be able to do if you want in a moment, down at the when Elaine, we did a reception here that's all the various schools that were involved, lots of them there from Notre Dame. But the flexibility comes with the schools to do it at various times. So we're doing some more filming of the mile a week Monday. I sent out a note to all of the schools who are doing things, and they're all doing it at different times, and they're doing it, some of them are doing it later to accommodate particular activities first thing in the morning next Monday. And what they can do is they can just change it whenever they want. The problem you get for a school like St Martin's is that the whole school, apart from I think 1 year, is doing it. So how do you accommodate that in their play scheme, school? But it's so different to things like PE where it's all structured. You know, the flexibility I think has been key. They have got fitter. There's no doubt about it. The biggest benefits have been around emotional health and well-being. I'm absolutely convinced of that. That's what our teachers say to us. We were at Vale, I think it was, and 2 of the senior staff there said this has been the biggest thing to impact on our young people in terms of their engagement with their peers, opportunity to talk with teachers, but they just feel better for doing the mile. But I like this picture that Catel have done a really good, their kids really do run a lot when they do the mile, which is what we want to see for fitness purposes. And you know, now I said we gave the camera to kids when we went over. I think that's a fantastic picture of them at Catel, it's lovely. And then over on the left, that's what we then had, the students decided this, they could do some activities at St Martin's, and they wanted to train to do the mile and to have it timed. So we had them down at Summeray Park. We did about 2 or 3 sessions with them, which again is just an unintended consequence that we're pleased to have seen. It is friendly. These are 2 of our community settings. That's the Sailing Trust, so they use the mile if it's not appropriate for their children to be swimming or to be in the boats all the time. And that's at Fussell House. And we had a lovely time just walking. I don't know how much that they now use the mile routes at Fussell House. I know the Sailing Trust use them a lot. But again, friendliness has been a key theme that we've had to talk about. It does make them fit for learning. There's no doubt about that. You know, that what the schools have done, both the early years on the right here and some of our senior, that's Amherst, the more difficult things they'll give them to do after they've gone out and had a bash at the mile. And just to finish, one of the other things that Thrive did was we had Nick Hines and Mick Walters who helped shape our Bailiwick curriculum for us. And the whole point behind our Bailiwick curriculum, and we're going through all sorts of changes in education, but I really hope the principles of our curriculum stay the same, because it's such a strong curriculum that addresses everything that we're talking about here around emotional health and well-being, whatever. But it's about being joyous and purposeful. Whenever I go into any of our schools and look at them doing the mile, it is joyous. You could just see that on those pictures. They've enjoyed doing it. It's fun. They're doing it with their mates. And it is purposeful. You know, we're trying to get them to run rather than walk. But they are going out, and some of them are really taking that on board. But there's a real purpose behind what we're doing, which is about helping them to be fitter and also helping them in terms of their emotional health and well-being.